you guys are here why you're here to hear Cohen talk, okay? The one thing that I do ask more than anything else, he is prepared really well, and I'm really excited for you to hear what he has to say. But I do ask that you are way better students for him than you are for everybody else. Julie, I'm looking at you.
It's because I'm good looking.
It's something like that. All right, so Cohen he's prepared an awful lot of stuff. He's got an awful lot of things that are great to say. So I really hope you guys, the one thing that I ask more than anything else is you listen to what he has to say, and then he will take questions at the end, and he's more than willing to. I've learned Cohen is an amazing kid, and he is willing to share whatever his feelings are with you. He'll be honest with you. So if you have questions about what he's going to talk about, please ask him at the end. That more than anything else, and give him your undivided attention. So Cohen, go ahead.
What the what? All right, perfect. Yeah, what the what? Thank you. At first I didn't know what the title is because there's a good chunk I'm covering it. I think Parker gave it a good title, but I didn't add it. So we have a student doing a PD, what the what, as Parker would say. But anyways, just as a, I have to go all the way over here. I hate Canva. There we go. Just as an introduction, by raise of hands, I see a lot of familiar faces. I see a lot of faces I do not know at all. How many of you know who I am by raise of hand? Have me in a class? Oh, okay, that's more than I thought. There are a lot of people that I do know and I recognize. The more I look, the more people I know. For those people who don't know who I am, you also just might be thinking to yourself, what am I doing here? There's a student here. I thought PDs were professional development for teachers teaching teachers, not student teaching teacher. What am I here for? Basically, I was given the opportunity to teach a class at the high school last trimester. I started developing it, not with the intentions of teaching it, didn't know I was gonna end up teaching it, but I ended up teaching it. Last year, third trimester, when in second trimester, towards the end, Crawford told me that he was going to be leaving for the next year because he hates us all. And so I was like, holy crap, I gotta get as many internships hours as I can. I got 4 internship hours out of 6 of my total hours, and I spent a lot of my time reworking the cloud computing curriculum because AWS had just changed what they wanted, and so I reworked it all. And then at the beginning of this year, I was Goddard's intern, and he had me start making the Canvas class. And I eventually was just like, hey, can I teach the class? And he was like, sure. And so then I taught the class. I made the Canvas course, and then I went on to teach the class. And for the very small class we had, because of some minor scheduling issues, they all got a 100% pass rate on the CTE exam, which I assume is good. Thank you. I assume was good. But yeah, that's a little about me. Parker put my name in there. I'm Cohen Van Komen. He also just said it. And I want to talk about AI from a student's perspective, and I have a little thing that's like what I'll talk about. Oh, I right-clicked. Hello? Thank you. There we go. I have AI from a student's perspective, which is one of the big things I'll be talking about. Some concerns about AI usage in school. I also want to talk about some misconceptions in AI, especially about the problems with it, and how some of the problems that people bring up are misconstrued or just misrepresented, where there are still problems, but they're either over-exaggerated or said wrong and then spread the wrong way, which makes them seem a lot worse than they actually are. Concerns about AI usage and development in general, why AI is too broad of a term, and in that section I will talk about AI that has done good for probably everyone in here's lives, and you just don't actually know it yet. And then I have questions at the end, and also a little form if you don't want to shout your question out loud at me or think of a random question 2 hours from now, you can send me that and I'll email you back eventually. There we go. So first off, just what do most of you think of when I say the term AI? Just you can go by raise of hands, or I'll just click the next slide and we'll guess what most of you think are going to say. Cheating is what I hear.
Awesome insight.
Awesome insight.
Artificial insemination.
I'm gonna guess that a lot of people think of this right here, ChatGPT. This was one of the first major large language models on that came out, and as we heard from the back, oh my lord. I keep right-clicking, this is terrible. A lot of people think of us of cheating, and the fact that a lot of people think that students use AI to cheat, and I've heard some people who are kind of on the edge of that, and some people who are like, I don't think so, and some people are like, that is the only thing it's ever used for. And I think that we should all either lean towards more the middle ground. There are definitely students who I think will use AI to cheat, but I'll also talk about why that's not necessarily a problem with AI in a moment. Wow, am I gonna right click every single time? This is also a question for you. This is by raise of hands, and we will circle this back to later. First off is just by raise of hands, who here thinks that AI is good? Okay, there's a good chunk. By raise of hands, who do you think that AI is bad? Okay, I thought there was actually gonna be a lot more people raising their hand for that. Yes, a lot of people think, I like both. I like in the mid-ground. Mid-ground is where I sit, because we'll get to, that's why AI is too broad of a term. And also by raise of hands, do we think that AI can do any good at all, whatsoever? Okay, perfect. Hey, I didn't right-click that time. So first off, we have AI from a student's perspective. First off is I think that AI is really a tool. It's a tool that I've used a lot. I used ChatGPT when it first came out in minus grade when it was really, really bad, because it was a really, really cool tool because it was like, holy crap, I can tell it to write a 5-paragraph essay on cheese and it does it. And the essay is like actually not that terrible. It was really, really bad at the time compared to the essays now. That is garbage. But it was like, holy crap, this is crazy. And it wasn't really good when it first came out, but over the time it has developed incredibly quickly. 9th grade was only, what, like 4 years ago, and it is now able to deeply analyze quite a bit of things and do way, way more than it could. And I really think that when you use AI as a tool, instead of completely like replacing your thinking as a whole, that is when, oh, my bad. That is when AI becomes actually useful and less of a tool that just pumps out whatever you want to do and then you just submit that and then it's bad or it's wrong. Instead, when you actually use it to work alongside with or to brainstorm ideas off of, it can actually be quite a benefit. I have a couple of examples down here of ways that I've heard students to use AI or a way that I have used AI before. The first one that I hear a lot of people is explaining confusing concepts in multiple ways. You can tell an AI, hey, I just got taught this concept, and the way my teacher said it, I got nothing. I do not understand it. Will you explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old? And it will break it down to you in a certain way that people can understand. And that is all ways that I've heard of students using AI is they're explaining a concept or they're learning something by their teachers and they're like, holy crap, I don't even get this in the slightest. I have no idea. And they're like, will you please explain this to me in a way that I might be able to understand? And they're able to ask follow-up questions and have something with them that can relatively give them the answers that they need instead of having to like go to the teacher and it'd be awkward in the middle of class. You have to like raise your hand and interrupt class, and not a lot of people like to do that. There's those quiet kids in the back who never raise their hands ever. There's also getting step-by-step breakdowns of how to do things. I think this is a lot of things that people can use who aren't very good at tech or IT. If you're having an IT problem, you can say, I have this problem, I have no idea how to do this, I suck at IT, will you please tell me how to fix this? And a lot of times it can give you a step-by-step breakdown of how to actually do it, and if it's not detailed enough, you can be like, hey, that's not enough. I don't even know where I'm clicking. And it will literally tell you, you're going to click here, and then move to here, and then move to here, and then move to here. If that doesn't work, do this, and it will break it all down for you, which is something that I've used before when IT problems stump me, which is rare, but happens on occasion. And it's also things that I hear a lot of people doing. Brainstorming ideas is also something I do, which I will get to when I have a later slide. Oh, there we go, right-clicking. Come on, there we go. So I want to also talk about how I personally use AI because I feel like I can spit all these words at you, but examples I feel like work best. My number one usage for AI is actually not as a tool at all. It is asking random questions when I get them, and they're so random, I don't actually care to do the research, or the Google search didn't work and I just need a quick breakdown to satisfy that urge that I need to know this random question that I have, I need to know the answer to. On this very first one, I was watching a show and I got the random question of who were the top 5 male and female figure skaters of all time. If I were to search this on Google, I'd like get into some Reddit threads and I have to like read and have to like go through these. First I'd have to go through all the comments that are just garbage. I have to find the actual comments and like sit there and read them, and I'm like, I'm still watching the show. I really just wanted like a 5-minute explanation to write this down so I can get a little thing. And this also, just this in and of itself, also shows a strong suit of using AI as a tool for said these random questions, or just in general. You can format the way that you like to have it responded, which I have on a later slide. And there's also a thing to do with memory. Here, I like when I ask it quick questions, which is something that I've told ChatGPT to do, is I have it format things in quick bullet points that are easily digestible. And then if I want more explanation, either say so, or it assumes the question needs more explanation and will give me the paragraphs. And what's also nice is they have a context window. So I can just ask other questions. I eventually asked about a different character from the show and then just ask about another character from the show, and it remembers what I was talking about. This can cause problems if it's 3 a.m., like happened to me the other day when I was asking a random question and I was typing into Google, and I typed something in, and then I just asked the follow-up question into Google, which had no context what I was just talking about, and so I just searched up like, what about this, and was like, what am I looking at? This has nothing to do with what I was just talking about, because I didn't have the memory of the conversation I was just talking about, which is a strong suit of using AI, not just as a random question asker, but also just in general. There's also the application of voice modes, which are in a lot of modern chatbots, where if you are doing something and you just want to like have it on your desk and you're just talking to it, it will answer those random questions for you. I've done too many random questions whilst I am brushing my teeth before I go to bed, and I get this random question, and I ask it, and I sit there and I like listen to it talk, I'm like, oh great, and I close it because it's a random question. But there's also more like advanced random questions. This is one that I was asking. I was looking at my microphone that sits on my desk off of its boom arm, and I was like, man, I wonder how microphones work. So then I asked the question, but I don't actually care how microphones work that much, so I didn't want an in-depth response. So then it gives me this little thing, and I'm like, ah, perfect, satisfied the itch, straight to the back of the memory. And there's just a couple strong suits in AI that I believe that either people don't know or they just assume that kids are using it for cheating. And really, I think it could be used as a tool for the most part. As I talked about, right, the response file, you can adjust how you like your responses to come to you, and it will remember it over the course of your chats. And if you ever want to change that, then you can change it, or you can remove it from the memory and just have it spit out its basic response. Also, speed, which does kind of make me sound like I just don't want to do the research, but if I want to learn something and like really go in depth, then I do the research. But if it's a really, really simple question or just a random question I have, the speed is also just really nice. I don't want to pull up the 12 Reddit threads that are at the top of Google or go to the third page of Google to actually find the person who wrote a paper on what I'm asking about. It's something that takes too long. Instead, I can get a pretty good resource because I personally have my chatbot, or not my chatbot, but the AI that I use ChatGPT. I'm like this close to switching to Claude. I'm so close, I'm right on the edge. But I ask it to search the web to find resources and stuff so that I'm not just getting what's coming from the large language model, but I'm having it search the web, go through websites and pull things, and then if I'm more interested, I can actually click into, it'll give me a summary of the website, and then let me click on the website, and then I actually read through whatever it found if I want to go even more in depth than what it gives me. And then we talked about memory, which is like memory from the current conversation. As you go down, you can continue to ask about, say you're having an IT problem and another thing happens while you're using it, you can talk about that problem and be like, oh, that happened because during this, you did this, here's how to fix that, and keep everything how you want it. And also just the speech, which is a bonus for some things like ChatGPT, or being able to talk to it is actually just incredibly nice. Also brainstorming, this was just a random idea I had at like, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night when I was talking to my friends, is a game idea where essentially it's like Google Maps, but you are in the world and you can drive anywhere and then race your friends in any car. And I sat there and I went back and forth with it and brainstormed ideas. Or if I'm like needing to write something for like an essay for a scholarship and I'm like, man, I don't even know what I'm supposed to talk about. Like they give me this prompt, but I got nothing, and I'm like, what are some general ideas I could bounce off of? And it'll give me some ideas, and I'm like, I kind of like this one. I'm gonna use this, and I like write a little about it, and I'm like, does this work? And it's like, and I just bounce ideas, and you're able to brainstorm back and forth. Instead of making it write it for you or have it make the game for me, which you wouldn't be able to do. That's too complex of a game. I'm able to just sit there and brainstorm back and forth to get ideas, or if I have problems in my code, or I'm really, really bad at grammar. I really, really suck at grammar, and I'm like, does this sentence actually sound right? I don't know if this sounds right. Or like if I have something that I need to be reworded and I'm like, hey, how am I supposed to say this? And it'll tell me the way that it should be structured, and then I'm like, oh, that makes so much more sense. I don't know why I didn't originally think of that. There's other notable uses that I have done, which is essay grading / improvement. If I have like an essay for a scholarship and I'm like, does this essay actually sound good? It'll tell me if my essay's trash, and then tell me that this is how I need to fix it, and this is why. Instead of just having to like, I'm not just like, rewrite this essay for me. I'm like, hey, here's the rubric. Will you please tell me what I did wrong? And then it's like, hey, trash. I recently had a poli-sci essay for Colvin, and I did my footnotes totally wrong. I mixed author date with a different kind of the kind we were using. It was really, really bad. I don't know what I was cooking. And so I asked, and it was like, he was like, hey, your footnotes, garbage. Those are like 0 out of 0 on the bottom. You need to fix those. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I fixed those. I got a 20, 20, 20 on the essay. Holla. I was gonna cry. I was expecting to like get a 2. 20 out of 20, much better. I also used it to create question banks for cloud computing because I did not have the time. And also I learned very quickly when I was making the class that creating distractors are hard. Way harder than I thought. I thought creating the questions, not so difficult. Creating good distractors, holy crap. I feel bad for all of you. I'm so sorry, because you guys have more than one class. That was awful. I can't make a good distractor. They're all stupid. And this was able to make pretty good distractors while I was able to like work on the class, and it saved me so many hours of time. I did the first 2 units by hand, never again. I cannot create good questions. I'm a bad question maker. Also formatting files, for those of you who may like sort things into certain files, this is a thing that I had for a game that I dropped to make cloud computing, but I needed this JSON format, which you don't have to worry about what JSON is, but it's formatted like this, and I needed all of these, and I need like 80 rows of it, and I didn't want to type it by hand or copy and paste over and over again because it kept messing with the formatting. So then it made this, and then I just put in everything I had. This is like a menu. I don't know if you can actually read that, but that's not necessary. And then also I talked about IT problems are definitely a big use that I could see actually a lot of people, even like your like 60-year-old grandma, I guess your grandmas are not 60. I'm not talking to kids. your way ancient grandma who doesn't know how to use a phone, if they have an IT problem, you could be like, oh, hey, I also don't know anything about IT, but we can work this out together. But also the big question is, what about cheating, right? There's a big problem that I hear a lot of teachers have about cheating in AI usage, right? Kids who will just plug the prompt into ChatGPT and be like, hey, write this essay, and then they submit it in 5 minutes, and you're like, you did not write that in 5 minutes. I have a couple reasons as to why that is something kids are going to do, but also not necessarily a problem. The first off, in specifically our language arts department, which you guys are way back there. Did someone just banish you to the shadow realm? Like, I'm so sorry. Maybe it's because you had the long walk, I don't know. But for us specifically, we have AI checkers, which are also AIs in and of themselves. So for the AI haters out there, food for thought. But these catch cheaters in their tracks, they're trained on like AI essays and non-AI essays, and they're trained to find the difference in between them, which work pretty well. I've heard stories of like people who like I have friends, and then they're like, this other person in this class got like a 90% similarity rate on their thing and got a 0, which is the goal of that tool. Also, there's tests, which was true before, but also even more true now, is that we don't have assignments counting towards our grades anymore. It's just tests, and you can't use an AI on a test. So if the student's gonna use AI beforehand on the assignments, it doesn't necessarily matter anymore. And then the big one is academic integrity. I think if cheating in general is the topic that we're discussing, if a kid was going to cheat or cheats with AI, I think that their academic integrity is already low and they were already going to cheat. I think if you remove AI from the situation, they would have just found another way to cheat. Even if it's writing an essay, they would have just started taking pieces that they could have found and tried to do the least effort possible because they just don't want to do the work. Onward and onward. There's also a problem that a lot of people talk about with hallucinations, which are something that AI happens. All modern AI models hallucinate. It's something that is basically comes from the fact that they are glorified next word predictors. That's basically what they do. They predict the next best word based on your prompt. They plug your prompt into a bunch of math and do a bunch of math on it based on the training data. But the thing is that hallucinations aren't really they're not necessarily a failure of AI as a tool. They're the reminder that they're not the thinker, we are. The user is the thinker when you're using AI. If you're using it to do everything for you, then hallucinations become a problem because it's doing the work for you and it can't do the work for you. If you use it alongside as a tool to automate things that you don't necessarily have the time to do or to make time for you, then the hallucinations become less problematic. They still happen from time to time, but they're way less as if you're just asking it to write the essay for you or do the math for you, or I don't know what else students use it for. That's the main two things I hear people use it on. And this really means that hallucinations only matter if students are using it to do all of their work. Because then the hallucination produces wrong sources, facts that are false, or will just sound stupid if you have it write a whole super, super long essay. Sometimes it sounds really great, sometimes it makes a source that doesn't actually exist. And that is really just a reminder that the user is the person that should be thinking and should be using the AI as more of a tool, whereas if the AI is just doing everything, then it's gonna mess up based on the like how AI works. I don't know how to word that sentence. Wording is hard. And the point I'm really trying to make is that AI is not just a tool that, or really AI is a tool that most people, and not even just students, but most people could probably find some use for. You're not gonna be like a daily user like me who asks it so many questions that I'm really hope it's not gonna become conscious one day, because it's gonna think I'm really weird. It's gonna think I'm really weird. I've started using temporary chat because I'm afraid. I don't want that to be in the search history. I ask so many random questions. It's like, how did you even come up with this? And I think that a lot of people could probably use it to speed up workflows. If you have a repetitive task that you do, like if you have like a doc, I don't know, I use this with my friends. We run like a YouTube channel together. We format docs a lot in like a specific way. And I didn't know necessarily how I wanted the format to look. And so I like brainstormed ideas off of it. That kind of stuff works great. You don't have it make the doc for you. You're just able to bounce ideas off it, figure out how you want it to look, and then have it do it nicely for you, and then fix any mistakes it might make. And I also just really want to push that AI should not be written off as something that should just use for cheating and just spits out misinformation constantly. A majority of the students I asked said they used AI as a tool that they used to brainstorm ideas for essays, or if they didn't understand something, they used it to explain something that they just didn't get into class, or like a part of the topic they just didn't quite get. And there are definitely students that will use it for cheating, but as I said earlier, I think those kids were already going to cheat, and I think they would have just done it some other way, whether or not that be if AI was taking out a picture. And AI is an incredibly hot topic right now, and I think it's something that's largely misunderstood and overgeneralized, which leads me on to, I right-clicked again. I have not used a magic mouse in forever. On the last bit, I want to talk about some large misconceptions about AI and about how AI is too broad of a term in general. First off, water. There's a big topic in AI and water where I've heard things like people say, like, doesn't a single request use like a gallon of water, or I've heard numbers from a gallon to 10 gallons of water. That's a big gap, and two, that's a lot of freaking water. On water, this is how much water you're actually using on a general request. This is based on like if you average how much water is consumed during training and then otherwise. And it'd be about 500 milliliters of water. But it comes with a little bit of a caveat, which is first that some data centers don't use water cooling at all, which you also don't know which data your data center is going to. All the water doesn't just evaporate. There is a lot that evaporates if it's released, unless it's in like a closed loop system where it's not replaced very often. And in the grand scheme of like water as a whole, data centers don't necessarily use a lot, but there is a minor problem. I say minor, it's actually major, where, oh, I exit full screen, crap, suck. There we go. Where it's not necessarily the water usage that is a problem, it's where the data centers are built. These data centers are being built in deserts, because those deserts have nobody in them, and so there's a lot of room to create a giant data center, and that is definitely a problem, and that is a problem that I'm not going to try and say isn't. It's a problem. There are data centers that are being built in near small communities in desert areas that already don't have enough water, and then they're taking all the water, which is a problem. Now, those data centers are mainly for training AI, not housing AI, but there is one thing I want to push on that, which is that it will get better over time. This is a computer in 1935 called Strela. It was the size of a room, and when it turned on, the city lights dimmed in the entire city. I'm talking the whole thing. Your house, you turn your light on your bathroom and suddenly goes, oh, dims a little bit, or even just turns off entirely. Over there, 10 years later, is the Atlas computer, which looks about the size of a large filing cabinet. That's not the whole thing, that's 3 of them, which in a 10-year age gap was a 90% reduction in power usage and overall like heat production and energy. It will get better over time. There is a problem with water and electricity usage now, and I definitely think that is something that should be addressed, but I want to push that if that is the reason why people despise AI, it will get better. And as I'm, oh damn, wow, holy crap. Time flies when you're having fun, I guess. Anyways, or when you're stressed. The last 2 things I want to push, and I'll go kind of quick through that, is that AI is too broad of a term, and that there's AI that has, or that can and already has improved your life. First off, this is some AI that I almost guarantee all of you use daily. If you don't believe me, here's the weather app. That is something that is an AI model, multiple AI models strung together based on predictions of the weather itself, the temperature, precipitation, air pressure. Those are a lot of things you can look at. Up here, this is Face ID and Touch ID. This is the iPhone things, but also on like Android, if you have Touch ID, or like the Iris thing that they do sometimes, that's a thing. Any recommendation algorithm ever. This is your photo app. This is autocorrect. That's swipe to text. That is typing on your phone in general, because a lot of humans have fat fingers and they touch like 6 keys at once, and it chooses which key it thinks you're typing. That's Wi-Fi routing, Alexa, True Tone displays, Google Maps, Amazon, searching photos, full self-driving. That's a self-checkout scan, Amazon deliveries, a step tracker, sleep tracker, recommendations, spam. And then these are like the little drop-down boxes that like preview websites for you, that are like, you have this question, here's a website that answers it, not the AI overview thing. And those are things that I almost guarantee, a lot of us check the weather every day or quite often. Those are AI models that you use every day. And that's because in general, AI is too broad of a term. When we're talking about ChatGPT, those are large language models. They're under the big umbrella of AI, where those are like predictive AIs, or things that are meant to just judge a certain temperature based on data. And then last but not least is AI that is good for humanity. This is a protein. Bert, you're not allowed to play. This is hemoglobin, which carries oxygen in the blood. I can see Bert who know that. This took over 20 years of work to figure out the structure of this protein. This is a G-coupled protein receptor. It sits on the edge of a cell and takes information from outside the cell to inside the cell. This one works with adrenaline. This also took over 20 years of work to figure out this structure, because it's a really weird structure. It's hard to crystallize and such. This is Google DeepMind creating AlphaFold. It was created in 2018 and revolutionized the solution of protein structures, and has solved over 240 million structures in the time it was created, which cuts down protein solving by days instead of 20 years. Now obviously, if you had a simpler protein, you could probably solve a modern protein in like a week, but instead it'd be like hours. This is the SARS-2 COVID spike protein. This is what allows it to infiltrate things and do bad stuff to you. This is part of COVID. There's a couple of things that are into it. And this was solved in just a couple hours or days. It's a little iffy because they solved a lot of proteins related to COVID all at once and then released them all at once. So I don't know the exact time frame, but it was able to solve this protein in probably a few hours based on all of its training data. And this is revolutionary in terms of medicine. There's some other notable examples. Up here is a medicine model that is used to model drugs and what they'll do to the human body. So you can create a drug candidate in months instead of taking years. This is DeepMind's GNOME system, which is a combination of models used to discover new materials for future energy technology. This is DeepMind's Alpha Mesense, I don't know how to pronounce that, which predicts the effects of genetic mutations on humans. And also other animals. This is DeepMind's GraphCast, which models climate models for hurricanes, floods, heat waves, stuff like that. And then AlphaFold can also create proteins instead of just solving their structure. It can do it kind of in reverse. AlphaFold makes a lot of these. DeepMind makes a lot of these because they're a big company that likes making AI that does good for the world. And now, I'm not asking for a raise of hands, but also for those of you who said that, or just general in your response in the can AI do any good whatsoever, I would like you to just kind of look back in your response with that. I couldn't go into very depth, but this kind of AI allows you to revolutionize how you create medicines, or the fact that we were able to solve that protein in hours or days allowed us to have a much faster response to COVID than we ever would have had without it. And that is all I have for you. These are some questions that you could ask me, or any questions at all if you have for me. I will answer them. This is a form that is semi-anonymous. I ask you to give me your email so that you can, so I can email you back. If you don't want to give me your email, then I guess you don't get an answer. And that's your credit for being here. Thank you very much. Wow. 15 minutes goes by fast. That was 30.
Does anybody have any questions for Cohen that you want to ask him? This is your chance. I know everybody's scanning this because you want your credit, but does anybody have any questions? He's more than willing to answer them in front of everybody, or if you want to come up after, you want to ask something right now.
I don't have a jar of Prego to ask for any preguntas.
Any questions?
No.
I think we should have him do it again. On something else.
On something else.
I'd do it again. I don't know what I'd do it on, but I'd do it again.
All right, Cohen, looks like you are released.
Perfect. Let me unmic myself. lost in the infinite depths of my pocket.